What is up? I'm Annabelle Hasselbeck here with Kasey Hudson, and this is Respect Her Game, where we talk all things WNBA, tennis, soccer, lacrosse, you name it. We've probably covered it here on this show, but today we got a lot of WNBA news with new Commissioner's Cup champions in the Indiana Fever, but also some tennis. So we'll talk all things Wimbledon and get you guys updated with that. But first, let's check in with Kasey. Kasey, love the tennis dress today.
Thank you.
And how was your July 4th?
I just want to honor the Wimbledon.
Love it. You guys can't see the full fit, but she's killing it right now. Oh, yeah, the purple.
Okay. My flexibility is not there.
How's your rotational?
Well, my hip flexors clearly
rotation
failed me. But lavender Vans to match the whole fit because we're talking Wimbledon. Very chill weekend. I just kept it really chill. Didn't do much for 4th of July. I was able to see fireworks outside of my window. I was able to hold my dog because she was losing her ever-loving mind. But it was good. You can't complain against catching up on reading and sleep. But you had a more exciting weekend, one would say.
Oh, definitely. Well, both are awesome. But no, I did. I was in Nantucket with my family. It was so fun. I'd only been there one other time. But beautiful place and love the water. Sometimes
lives up to all of it.
Totally lives up to all of it. That would have been the perfect fit, too, for Nantucket.
And I had a little sweater that matches
with it, too. So the tennis outfit was perfect that Kasey's wearing. So next time we'll have to go together. But no, it was great. Like getting in the ocean sometimes is like you're so nervous to do it because it's so cold.
Yeah.
But once I did it, I was like, this is freezing, but almost like shocked my system. So the people who do the cold plunges, I think they work.
Free cryotherapy almost ish. Yeah, that's what one would call it.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I loved it. But going back to your dog, like my dog growing up, he was terrified of the fireworks. So we had to put like those thunder jackets on him. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard of that.
Like literally wrap the dog in like a security blanket.
It's supposed to feel like they're being held and cozied.
I'm like, I got you. He's like, no, I need a thunder jacket.
I feel like my dog's too smart for that. Like she looks at things like, good try, honestly, with a number of things.
She's
that
like,
we
I want
tried.
Kasey. What kind of dog is she?
German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois mix.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she's a big baby, emphasis on the baby.
Okay.
And she thinks that she's a 60-pound lap dog. So it's an adventure with my Luna girl all the time. But I mean, I got her when she was 6 weeks old.
So cute. Okay, next time we'll have to bring her in or throw up a picture or bring her in.
She'd love to come in. She's very personable. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It was so fun. Well, I'm glad it's crazy that we already hit July 4th. I was telling people like, oh, we're already at July 4th. But that means that we're, midway through the WNBA season. So we've got a lot of news to cover. So let's get to some hoops. The Indiana Fever, our first-time Commissioner Cup champions after defeating the Minnesota Lynx 74-59 last week. And it was basically an upset because Minnesota Lynx had home court advantage. Yep. And they were playing an Indiana Fever team that did not have Caitlin Clark due to a groin injury that she's been working through. And the Lynx were actually leading 20-12 after the first quarter, only then to go on to score only 39 more points the rest of the game. And even though the Fever were the underdog in this game, do you feel like this is a surprise that they won the Commissioner's Cup? Because, I don't know, there's been a lot of hype around this team this season.
I know. I will say I was slightly surprised. I think I've made a case to talk about how closely I typically track Minnesota teams. Nafisa Collier is one of my favorites to pay closer attention to as well for many reasons, obviously, but that's where the surprise comes in, considering what the Lynx have done, how they've pushed a lot of teams outside of their comfort zone, how they've been a championship caliber team. But I feel like since the top of the season, the Fever have made it a case to say, like, look what we did last year coming back from the Olympic break. Look at the momentum that we had. Look at the chemistry we started to build. And while there's some new pieces in tow, you can see where that chemistry really kind of played into the beginning of this season. So they've made a case to say, watch us, pay attention to us. We're not that team that's just like only bring us hype because of Caitlin Clark. Like there's more different kinds of variations of talent here that's going to make the Fever a team worth talking about. And that's where it was like, all right, this may have been a surprise, but it was totally a worthy surprise.
Definitely. And it's dangerous, right? I think people in the WNBA and even fans are like, oh shoot, they're winning this game. They're winning this championship without Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And that's when you see other players like Natasha Howard, who got MVP. She had 16 points, 12 rebounds, step up, especially on defense as well.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really impressive is, yes, we knew she was a great defender, but when your top players, are out and go down, who's going to rise to the occasion? Who's going to step up? Also, Aaliyah Boston. She actually went to Worcester Academy here. Our other AB. She went to Worcester Academy here. I got to play her back in the day, but she had 11 rebounds and 6 assists. But the big news and kind of where the attention went for this game was actually on the money that was received, the bag that they got, the Indiana Fever. The winning team got $500,000, and each player $5,000 in cryptocurrency. But here's what happened that everybody's talking about. Like, Caitlin Clark was calling out the league for basically providing a larger prize for this championship than winning the WNBA final. So here's what Caitlin Clark had to say on an Instagram Live after the game.
We got 40 minutes. You get more for this than you do if you're the champion. Makes no sense. Someone tell Kathy to help us out.
Caitlin Clark is like the most chill but confident person I've ever like witnessed. It's just like, it makes no sense.
Yes, it's
I kind of
true.
just like I love her attitude. I love the vibe that she has. But I thought it was so cool that she really called out the WNBA commissioner.
Yeah.
She's like, yo, Kathy, like, send us some help out here. And I thought that was really bold, truthfully. But at the same time, like, if anybody's got to do it, it's got to be her.
100%. It's got to be her in that moment as a current champion. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if she said it.
With
if
the
they
goggles,
just fell
with the ski goggles on.
The ski goggles. It's one thing if she said it, though, being on the losing end of this game, right? Because then it's like, okay, you can add so many other narratives to the mix. But being as so that her team is a team that won, and she's sitting there like, and I love the one-liners that she drops. She drops one realistic one-liner, so perfectly in the midst of the storm. And it's just like, how do we make more money with this than the WNBA finals? Yet we're asking people to pay more attention to the WNBA as a whole. We want to direct more attention to the finals. We want people to care about the teams that are competing, the teams that come out on top, the teams that break droughts like New York. So you can't have all of that if you're just going to sit here and put limitations on certain facets of it. And mid-season through, maybe it's one of those things that just helps create more inspiration and initiative. But like, I agree. I think it would have more of an impact to say, like, we want to get to the finals, not just because of the bag you can get, but because of what it means as a whole.
I loved your point just about how if she had lost the game, it would have been totally different, and it probably would have been received different. Because,
we would have changed the narrative entirely.
Then you had the other factors. Oh, you're just bummed that you want to win the real prize at the end WNBA. Like, I love that perspective because I think that's so valid. But here she is, literally ski goggles on. You just won like a huge accomplishment for your organization, and she's using that to be like, and it wasn't a formal press conference. She's like, celebrating in the back. But I thought it was great, and she's literally saying like, it makes no sense, right? Like, so generic and basic. But that's the crux of what all these WNBA players are saying. Like, this makes no sense. We're making this amount. The views are going up. Ticket sales are going up. We're getting more attention. And I think that's where all of the conversation is really going, is they're looking at what's going on in the W, and they're seeing what they're getting in return. And that's kind of, where it's culminating, really.
Yeah, they're the ones in the trenches of all of this. So, I feel like we kind of had a bit of a similar conversation for the Unrivaled series in terms of, like, how are they properly marketing this? How are they making this make sense? And I think we're hearing a lot more players step up to the plate and say, we need to make sense of every aspect of the WNBA. We can't ask for fans to pay attention, yet we're demeaning parts of the league, the game, the players on the other flip of the coin. And I feel like this is a good season for a lot of these voices to get a little bit louder, but not just in terms of rattling cages, to actually be heard, because fans are going to start supporting it. We saw how much fans kind of get in lieu and really start going to bat for these women when they are privy to these kinds of things, all aspects of the game that are kind of getting more of a spotlight. So this is something that I think is a simple fix. It makes sense for the WNBA finals. The finals, I mean, compare it to men's
it's crazy.
leagues.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? So it honestly makes no sense. And yes, if you did the financial side of it, there might be more money in the prize pool because there's less teams. And I think that was one of the reasons that they were bringing up as to why. But like, let's just be like so straight surface level on this. It does make no sense. But the good thing is that the Indiana Fever know that they have power because they've won and they're on track to potentially make a run at the WNBA final. So also doing that without Caitlin Clark.
Right.
Which is incredibly, a feather in your cap almost for the rest of your season. So here's what head coach Stephanie White had to say about playing without Caitlin Clark after the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you've seen this group grow. Caitlin's a player who has a high usage rate, has the ball in her hands a lot, and learning to play without her, learning to make big plays in tough moments on both ends of the floor is important because that's going to pay dividends down the stretch of the season for us. Like Kelsey said, it's not going to be your day every day. And when it's not, you got to have the confidence in yourself and the confidence in your teammates to allow someone else to step up in those moments. And I think that this group is learning that. They're learning how to play together. They're learning how to make plays for one another. Caitlin's somebody who's oftentimes make plays for them. And they're learning how to do that for one another. And I think that there's no substitute for going through that experience, and I think it's going to pay dividends for us down the road.
Stephanie White, backwards hat, Commissioner Cup champions. We won. That is the vibe. She is just so loving that, right? And she's so serious in this press conference, but you know that she's like, man, we just won this championship without Caitlin Clark. If you had told me that probably in preseason, I bet you she would have been like, not so sure about that, right? So this is just incredibly awesome for her to know the confidence that she has in her other players to step up, and definitely can see that she's excited about that with the backwards hat.
Oh my gosh, of course. I love that press conference vibe, but I like a lot of her press conferences because from a coach's perspective, and look, I'm not a coach. I maybe coached cheerleading for a hot minute back in the day, but it's very rewarding as a coach to think that you can still encourage and inspire a group with their key leader out of the mix. You know what I mean? And back to just narratives for a second. So much of this team's success or projected success is on the basis and back of Caitlin Clark. So to sit back as a coach for a second and say, yeah, I've got an ultimate all-star on my roster, but how can these women find their own identity within a team sport? How can they still make games matter if Caitlin Clark's face isn't plastered everywhere or if she's not in the starting lineup? And I think it's a testament to this fan base. For one, we got to give Fever fans so much love and credibility, but from a coach's perspective, you're still inspiring your team. Your team is still hungry to make a statement and show that they're a big part of this regardless of Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark just takes the playing field that much higher. But imagine where this team can go just reinserting her back into something they successfully just did.
Definitely. And I think the players on the Fever, they don't want to be just like Caitlin Clark and co. Right. They want to know hey, when our best play, even also too, I'm sure that they respect her incredibly and in the highest regard, but also you want to know that you're going to have your teammates back when she goes down.
Right.
And that's a huge part of it. And it made me think back to my time playing at Boston College lacrosse. My freshman year, we were in the national championship game, 2021, right hot off of COVID. So I literally had a mask on the bench, ripping it off in the sub box. It was nasty. But we're not going to talk about that. I'm over it. My wounds are healed. But we were in the national championship game against Syracuse. Right before the game before, our star defender captain goes down. She twists her ankle. She can't play in this game. Oh. And our coaching staff basically had to figure out a way to adjust, right? Now you need to fill in a starting defending spot. And I called my girl Phoebe Day. She was a sophomore at the time. She was running on a midi line. And Phoebe had to play D-mid on that line.
Right.
We couldn't ask her, hey, we know you're already doing your role. We're asking you now to do another role. You have to play D-mid, and then we'll split it with another A-mid. So basically, you can't replace the whole role and responsibility and impact that a starter, that a leader has.
100%.
But the best coaches, the best teams, and the best players are able to rise to the occasion and figure out, hey, we might just need to have multiple people do one person's job. So Phoebe Day was running D-mid on the top line and then also straight midi the entire rest of the game on the other line. So there's a lot of moving parts. I had to call her and be like, did I remember this right, Phoebe? So she was great recapping me on that, but I remember that being a great turning point for my lacrosse IQ and just for our team.
Yes.
To know, hey, we were in the national championship game and we were able to adjust. We were able to rise to the occasion and have our teammates back who went down.
100%. I love that you brought that into illumination because the reality of it is the reaction time. And it does go back to crediting the coach. And I'm sure that you as a leader on that team helped bring everybody's nerves down a bit because when you feel like there's about to be a void in the lineup, you get a lot of crazy thoughts going through your mind. I mean, and the funny part about this entire conversation is that having one of your leaders and key players go down, that's how I even ended up becoming a midfielder in soccer. I played forward for 80% of my life, but in an instant, it was you can run, you have the lungs, you have a soccer IQ, we need you at left wing.
You can
and
run,
I'm
Kasey, get down the field.
I'm we hope I can run for this long. I haven't had to do it my entire career, but it was the coach's confidence in seeing potential in me. It was our other captain that was just dude, you love running around this field. When practice is done, you're still running. So that's the energy we need you to bring into this moment, this game, and help break up that role that we're now about to be void on. So I think that's such a great picture to paint because there's a lot of moving pieces.
Definitely.
And confidence and internal calmness is a huge part of it. But Yeah.
No, it's so funny you say that about the internal confidence, because I asked Phoebe, like, when did you know that, like, you were going to be playing this D-mid role and basically starting for our team in this big game? She's like, you know what? They actually didn't tell me till, like, pretty close out to game time. So I think it was actually better that I didn't have to freak
Sometimes the
out.
element of surprise helps.
Honestly, that was what it was.
You don't have as much time to overthink it.
No, not at all. But a player who did step up was Natasha Howard. And here's what she had to say about defending Napheesa Collier after the game.
Natasha, you obviously are a former Defensive Player of the Year in this league. Can you just talk about your effort tonight? Obviously, you were guarding Collier quite a lot, but you also were able to get your offense going. I wonder if you could just talk about both those aspects of your game tonight.
I know I had a handful with Collier. She's a great player, but my thing was just limiting her to hard shots, and that's what I did tonight. I made it uncomfortable for her. But at the end of the day, she was going to still get her buckets. But I couldn't do it by myself. I had my teammates behind me helping me out as well. And for offense, I just read what the defender was giving me. And my teammate was finding me at the right spot at the right time.
Limiting her to hard shots. And that was a huge part for me as an athlete, getting over that mentality of, you're not saying I'm going to stop every shot. You're just saying I'm going to make it very hard for you. And I remember coming into college lacrosse and my coach saying, hey, we know that they're going to shoot the ball. Mm-hmm. We know that they're going to do this. We just have to make it extremely hard. We want these low angle shots. We want shots that we know our goalies are going to save. And I remember being like, wait, isn't the mentality like they're not going to shoot at all? We're not going to do this. But when you're playing in the WNBA and when you're one of the best players in the country and when you're playing with the most elite shooters, you know that they're going to shoot and you know that they're going to score. So you just have to find a way to make it extremely hard for them to do that.
Yeah, and like bouncing off of that, you got to remember too, you're going against people that have an elite mindset approaching the game. Like Napheesa Collier isn't one of the best of the best because she tries to stick to one strategy and one strategy only. Some of the best athletes in the world in every league across the board, one of the highest compliments about them is their ability to adjust. So of course they're going to continue to try to find a way to score. The reality is limiting it, maintaining it. I learned that really quickly. Like when I started doing analysis for hockey, it was just like, you don't dare go on air and be like, you have to eliminate Connor McDavid. No, you have to minimize, you have to limit, you have to, and like, I love how she said, make her uncomfortable. You're talking about somebody that on average is sitting 24 points or north, and you held her to what, 12, 14 points? Like, you made it uncomfortable for her. You made her have to think so much that she couldn't hyper focus on her game and she couldn't be the pinpoint for this Lynx team to find success. That's fantastic. She adjusted. She forced her to adjust. Only one person can come out on top when you play chess, and that's what worked for the Fever.
Incredible. And leading scorer in the league, so huge shout out to the Fever for being able to shut her down. But I want to quickly pivot before break to a comment made by Fever Sophie Cunningham about the expansion teams, Cleveland and Detroit, joining the WNBA because it got a lot of attention. She said, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cleveland, is what she was referring to. And people were clapping back at her, basically saying, girl, you play in Indiana. Like, what are you talking? But I will say, lived in Indiana for 3 years. Absolutely loved it. It's a very fun place. Yes, it's cornfields, like, for sure.
Yeah.
But I definitely see both sides of this. But what are your thoughts on Cunningham's comment here?
I think it's funny that she took that approach as well, because like you said, like, dude, you play in Indiana of all things. And I get that. My freshman year, I was in Gainesville, and the one exciting thing about Gainesville is University of Florida. And in the summertime, you see tumbleweeds at the University of Florida. That's what made me leave. But sometimes those niche markets, and I even say, I mean, Detroit's not going to be a niche market. Cleveland's not a niche market. They have a number of professional teams for a reason. I think the supplementation of income will come in a bit faster because it's not niche. And at the end of the day, it's all about the expansion. It's about giving more opportunity. It's about stopping the let's send you overseas to find a professional career, because we actually have the space and capacity to have a professional careers for women here in the States. So always from the expansion point of view, I'm on board. But I think it's just one of those things to where, like, when you look about all professional leagues, what are the two towns or two cities that get a lot of heat on their back? Cleveland for one.
Sorry guys. And we know, Miami was thrown out there, Nashville was thrown out there. I think as a player, like, yeah, I want to live there. But you're right, like, where's the market? Where are there already teams? Also for WNBA, where are there NBA teams? Mm-hmm. The NBA literally owns a huge percentage of the WNBA. So, like, yeah.
It has to make sense. And plus, like, Miami might be sexier, but you also want to look at communities that have die-hard fandom. You know what I mean? Because the buy-in is going to be there from the beginning. You're not going to have to try to overdress a situation. You can call it for what it is. An expansion WNBA team that's going to make a difference.
Definitely. And hey, if she gets traded there, if she gets moved there, then we'll see what ends up happening with that. But after we come back from the break, we'll get to our YouTube mailbag with you guys commenting on some of our videos. So Kasey and I will respond to that. And we're not done talking WNBA because we have the All-Star Draft tomorrow night. So we'll get you updated with all things and WNBA draft. And Fisa Collier, Caitlin Clark will be drafting the teams later this week. But that's all we got for right now. We'll catch you after the break. Hey, welcome back to Respect Her Game. Before we get to the WNBA All-Star Game and all the things that you need to know for that, we're going to get into our YouTube mailbag. So we'll start out with Pocket Nunu, I think his username is. People cheered when Sophie did the headlock. Fever plus Clark fans were so glad someone accomplished this. It was pent-up revenge for all the wrong fouls and the not called fouls on Clark. Sophie was Enforcer of the Year. All right. I definitely can agree with the Enforcer of the Year after that headlock situation. But yeah, Kasey, what are you thinking here?
I think a lot of Fever fans were excited to see this because more specifically to the fact of like uncalled fouls, just a number of moments. You and I talked about it seems like Caitlin Clark kind of has this moving target on her back, you know? So like maybe emphasis on maybe, the Fever winning without Caitlin Clark, they can realize that this Fever team is talented as a whole. It doesn't take away from how talented and what Caitlin Clark does specifically, but it's very obvious that there's a bit of a hyper focus when it comes to playing the Fever, and it all lands on Clark. So I'm sure a number of fans feel this way.
Definitely. I think that heated game will never go away. I think that's going to be something that people are talking about for a long time. And let's talk about it more with Dennis O'Brien, 4253. He says, I've been a hockey fan all my life and became a basketball fan because of Caitlin Clark. The move by Mabry in hockey would be a charging penalty and considered intent to injure. The Fever need to learn the meaning of the code that exists in hockey, especially with regard to protecting the star player. Take run at our woman and you will pay. Take run at our woman and you will pay. That was an intense statement there. But yeah, like really the intent there was to injure. It was to get up in Caitlin Clark's face, and she literally dropped her. Mabry literally dropped her. The play was over. The whistle had blown. This wasn't like an in-game play that someone could say, oh, I was going for the puck or I was going for the ball. Like, no, that was not the situation.
Yeah, like honestly, shout out to the hockey fan, of course. Like in this case, when you're talking about it from like a puck battle perspective, it's almost like a lot of things are fair game until it goes too far. And too far in hockey, the line's a little blurry. But for basketball, like you said, whistle blown, play done with. You're not battling it out for possession. You're not battling it out for the ball. So like all of this is just extra antics on the back end. And if you want to be extra on your end, guess what? We can be extra on our end, and we can roll in the enforcer. Exactly. We can roll in the enforcer to level the playing field. So I love the hockey reference, but it's true. It's almost getting to a point where you almost need a responder on the team. And I feel like Cunningham's kind of taking that on as like, hey, I'm here to respond if you guys want me to. I can put up the necessary points. I can play the necessary defense, but like I'm happy to drop the gloves.
Totally. Especially if it comes with over like 1 million social media followers, new social media followers.
Like what kind of sponsorships do you think you get after that?
Like it's Title Boxing membership for life.
Say Title Boxing.
Like I don't know. I mean, we got one right down the street here in Watertown, so we'll check it out. Yeah, maybe she'll come to the Boston expansion team, and then she'll get to fight there. But we'll get one last mailbag here at Good Life Breeze. This person says, lies, all caps. There's no such thing as the Clark rule. CC is not, all caps, a threat in the league. Minnesota and Atlanta is.
What?
So, listen, Minnesota, they've been playing great, but I definitely think you can't compare a player to a full team.
No.
I don't like that comparison that much, but yeah, I mean, she's definitely a threat to the league.
And it's pretty outlandish to say Caitlin Clark is not a threat. Like, if she wasn't a threat, we wouldn't be talking about the antics. We wouldn't be talking about the plays that continue after the play. And realistically, give credit where credit is due. Minnesota is a force to be reckoned with. I've said it 100 times here. I support Minnesota in a lot of ways. Atlanta, we'll talk about that another time. But the Fever, what they did after the Olympic break, they were not supposed to be a team that made any sort of splash last year. And they made other quality teams uncomfortable because of how they started to piece together plays. Then enters this WNBA season. they got off to a pretty decent start, one would say. Yeah, they're 9-9 on the record board, but they're still trying to adjust around their all-star so that everything doesn't come down to Caitlin Clark, which null and voids Caitlin Clark not being a threat.
Right.
So-
And she's one of the women that will be team captains drafting this
Right.
WNBA All-Star team. So definitely a threat. So let's get to that. The WNBA All-Star draft is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And kicking us off will be the team captains, Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier, who will pick live on ESPN. I'm so excited for this. I've never actually watched it before. And there will be no conference restrictions. So that means that players from the same WNBA team or conference can be dispersed across different teams. And there's really a ton of hype for who's going to get picked first, who's going to pick last, even though they do have the starter pool and they do have the reserve pool. And I think what'll be fun, too, is to see these two head coaches that went up against each other in the WNBA finals, Cheryl Reeve and New York Liberty coach Sandra Bordello, go up against each other, competing with Team Clark and Team Collier. So lots of rivalries here, but I think in the All-Star games, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted. You're supposed to, entertain the fans, right? That's really what it is.
Yep.
These women play so much, and so probably the last thing they want to do is play in a game that doesn't mean anything competing-wise. But there's a skills challenge. You got the skills challenge on Friday. They got the three-point contest, same on Friday, and then Saturday is the game, and it'll be 10-minute quarters. I'm most excited for the players to be mic'd up and hear those in-game interviews, because I know we get the coaches in-game interviews during the regular WNBA season, but I think it'll be a little bit different with the players. But I think a lot of people are saying, I'm confused. Why is Caitlin Clark have such a position that she did? Because she's been out, right? She's been healthy, been non-healthy, on and off the court. But I'm not shocked at all that she's gotten this title. Are you shocked at all?
No, I'm not shocked at all, because it's everything that we've been saying. She is clearly a very talented player. I think something else that she did very well was to not only rise to the expectation of her college career translating to the WNBA. I mean, she pretty much slam dunked that, not to be funny with words. And then the response to her previous injury earlier in the season, she comes back and has a hell of a game after that. So I think it's the leadership qualities. That's always going to give you an extra notch or step forward whenever you're in this sort of conversation. Nafisa Collier has been a leader for her team a number of ways. This team is starting to build around Caitlin Clark, this team being the Fever. So, you can't ignore that. And when you're talking about the top talent in the league, you're not taking away from the pillars of the WNBA, but she's changed the game on a number of levels and facets, the same way that we want to talk about Angel Reese. You know what I mean? So, you do have to give credit where credit is due. It doesn't surprise me. The injuries, you probably think to yourself, do you want to put her in that kind of position? But according to certain reports and stuff like that, she should be back this week. So if she's healthy and she is one of the many important faces of the WNBA, of course you're going to have her in this position.
Definitely. I think regardless, too, people will just be excited to see her there and to leading that group and to interacting with the other players, because they definitely want to see, hey, we see you guys go out on the court, but what do you actually like? But just looking at who these two women might draft, Collier and Clark, I'm going to go with a definite yes on Caitlin Clark drafting Aaliyah Boston. Teammates in Indiana. They're both young. They're both rookies of the year. They definitely have a great relationship. I feel like you can't not draft her if you're Caitlin Clark. So that's what I'm going to put my money in. But looking at just the starters and who potentially could get drafted, who do you think maybe Clark or Nafisa Collier might definitely pick?
I think I would love to see a moment where you have Caitlin Clark playing with Sabrina Ionescu, because we talk about Clark and some of the splashy threes that she throws down, but Ionescu, I mean, she's somebody else who's up there. She's had a single season record for how many 3-pointers that she's just made look so darn easy. So I feel like that would be fun. You kind of get a little bit of a Slash Bros translated into WNBA on the All-Star platform, court and level. So that's my only ask. Caitlin Clark, please link up with Sabrina.
That's Casey's only ask. It's easy, but I love that. But looking at the skills competition, because the game is one thing, that's Saturday, but I think the skills competition does get a lot of hype. I would say the 3-point shot is definitely the one that you'd want to win, because that one lives forever, and it seems like that one gets the most hype. But if you had to compete right now, Kasey Hudson, and you had to compete in the skills competition, which one would you want to succeed at?
Oh my gosh, no pressure, huh? I feel like so much of the we're not worthy moments come from you being able to kill it with a 3-pointer.
Right.
I think it's so hard to veer away from the 3-pointer.
I think so too. I think, coaches around me the dribbling and the passing and those drills are important, but I'm going to go with the 3-point shot. I feel like that lives the longest. I feel like that's a little more of a feather in your cap.
Because sometimes the dribbling and the other things, you're pulling so many other aspects into it. What's your frame? What's your size? Are you lower body strong? Your center of gravity? Do you pull your competition to play your game? But that 3-pointer, it's consistency in your what's the word I'm looking for? In your technique, in your stroke, and to do that over and over and over again. Whew,
Right.
yeah.
And sometimes even I was thinking about like, okay, who's going to win this 3-point shot competition? Sabrina Ionescu won it in 2023, but I'm pretty sure she deferred it last year in 2024 and didn't compete. So I'm interested to see, hey, will she actually compete this year? I think
back
it's
to try to
fun.
take it.
Definitely stressful. Like you think, oh yeah, 3-pointers like do that all the time, but there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of eyes on you. But also like some of the best 3-point shooters in the game are different in a drill. Right,
So
like
true.
in game and in drill situations, in like all-star situations, like those are very different. So I think it's interesting. I think if you had to put me up to it right now, I'd say I'd want to do the 3-point shot. Stakes are higher.
Yeah.
But that means that if I kill it, it'd be awesome. I think my best shot is the corner 3. Everywhere else, we'd have to work on. But in pig, don't ask me to shoot
In
there
pig.
because I will make it.
We know we're not allow AB on the court. I will be on the losing team of any of that in the basketball asset. I have foot-eye coordination
Hey.
and decent puck stick coordination.
Hey, we're on the skating lessons. That's important. But that wraps up our WNBA discussion for today. But we're going to pivot to some tennis and check in on all that's going on at Wimbledon. So stay tuned for some tennis when we come back. Hey, welcome back to Respect Your Game. We are just 6 days away from the Wimbledon women's final, but we have to get through the quarterfinals earlier this week first. And the exciting part of the women's tournament is that whoever takes home the trophy on July 12th will be the 9th woman in the past 9 years to do so. So we're guaranteed a first-time title winner, which is so exciting and so new and fun. And there are 4 more quarterfinal matches to be played Tuesday and Wednesday. And Aryna Sabalenka made her 11th straight consecutive Grand Slam quarterfinal appearance. But the real headline that was turning heads was the shocking upsets that happened all throughout this tournament so far, and notably Coco Gauff eliminated in the first round. So Kasey, how surprising was this for you?
Oh my gosh, I was so surprised. And I know most fans are kind of reacting to, she just won the French Open. How do you kind of come and drop out in the first round? But I remind fans that don't psychotically watch tennis, like those different surfaces, they matter, and you can only game plan so much for them. And it's been a big topic with Wimbledon in terms of just like, you know, last year I believe that there was a lot of heavy rain that they had to try to navigate, whereas like rain is one facet of it, humidity in the air is another facet of it, but then like the heat, wilting grass changes exactly how you're going to gain traction, how the ball manipulation is going to take place. So I don't want to compare her previous success to the dropout in round 1. The shock was still very much there because you're talking about somebody that's making all of the grand climbs in her career at such a tremendously young age. But I did see the last time that she got knocked out of Wimbledon round 1, she went on to win the U.S. Open. So
Hey.
we still have stuff to look forward to from Coco Gauff.
Totally. That could be a good sign. And it wasn't just her. It was Madison Keys who won the Australian Open.
Yeah.
She got eliminated. Coco Gauff, obviously. Jessica Pegula got eliminated right off the bat. So really a tough showing, too, for some of these top-seeded players. And the last American to win Wimbledon was Serena Williams in 2016. So definitely a bummer. There were 19 American women who came into this tournament. So unfortunately, we only have one left in that. But let's hear what Coco Gauff had to say after her loss and really reflecting on what that was.
How much of this do you chalk up to, grass being not the greatest environment for you, and how much to just, it's been a hell of a few weeks since Paris?
I think a little bit of both. I think, I don't know, I felt like mentally I was a little bit overwhelmed with everything that came afterwards, so I didn't feel like I had that enough time to do, I guess, celebrate and then also, get back into it. But, it's the first time of this experience of, coming off a win and having to play Wimbledon, and I definitely learned a lot of what I would and would not do again. But, yeah, also she played great. I saw the draw and knew it would be a tough match for me, and, I think, obviously, I played her on clay, and I think that surface that suits me a little bit better, and it was still a tough 3-setter. So, I knew today would be tough, and I had chances, but it is what it is.
I love with how she gave her opponent flowers, right? Because that was a point of contention in other competitions that Coco Gauff has competed in, not on her, but on her opponents, right? And so it's cool to see her kind of take that step and be like, hey, I'm going to reflect and give my opponent some credit there. But yeah, just to hear her talk about the other tournaments that she's played in and how that really had an effect on, her preparation for this, I was kind of shocked too that she brought it even back to that.
Oh yeah.
So it was really interesting to know like what her perspective was here on that and how the mental side of it almost overwhelmed her more than anything.
Yeah, to be able to flip that switch, I mean, I honestly couldn't imagine where she had to try to find that hard pivot in her mentality, because you do want to celebrate. I mean, all of us were celebrating on her behalf because of what it means not only to her but to her career, and for her to be the first of in comparison to women that she idolized. You know, Serena Williams is somebody that she has talked about on numerous occasions, how she tried to replicate aspects of her game, and like now she's kind of stepping into really big shoes, and again doing it very young. So I can't imagine what that mental switch is like. But back to what you said, crediting your opponent. Tennis is a very hard one. You don't really hear them give too much like genuine credit to their opponents, and it's because of the mental hurdle that's required in tennis. But for her to mention like, hey, we played on clay and it was still a tough match, so like I'm not surprised by this happening at Wimbledon, but it just shows you how small the margin of error is, and it could be the surface, or it could just be you not being mentally attuned either from the first set to the last set.
Right, definitely. And even when, you went back to saying, hey, after this loss that she's probably potentially going to win the next couple of tournaments and in matches, just thinking back to what her schedule probably looked like, we don't know. We weren't there with her training. But, like, when you win, that comes with a lot of awesome new things that aren't usually in your training schedule for tournaments like Wimbledon. Ad shoots, marketing, media, fun events, right?
Yes.
Like, there's other things that you want to go to. And also, not only just physically be there and be present for those things, but also, like, mentally that space. You need to be able to, like, bask in a win, for sure. But then, the wolf at the bottom of the mountain is hungrier than the wolf at the top of the mountain. Like, there's a little bit of that too. And she didn't explicitly say, my mind wasn't right. But in a sense, I think it was that balance of, hey, how much do I let this win carry me, and how much do I not?
How much do I celebrate? How much do I go ahead and turn the page? And actually, I love that you added some emphasis to that part, because if you look at it, like, for instance, don't hold me to this, but I'm pretty sure from what I saw, I don't think Ben Shelton competed in the French Open. There's a number of players that will decide not to do the French Open. They'll go do smaller tournaments that are already in England to be on that time schedule, to start getting a routine there, and to just really kind of like hone specific skill sets for their larger opponents that are coming up. I mean, Taylor Fritz is somebody we'll talk about shortly, but some people really have to curtail their schedule throughout a season to say, I'm going to do these big tournaments, I'm going to do these small ones, because the turnaround between a French Open, a Wimbledon, a US Open, you have to have a really big team backing you and keeping you in such a structured routine so that you can mentally flip the page and show up as your ultimate best player.
Definitely. I think people forget, like, they don't live here.
Right.
Like, there's a time zone change. Like, there's a lot of other factors that go into it. And even what we were talking about earlier with the surfaces. Yeah. Some players' game is curated more towards grass versus clay and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a part that I know a lot of the players have talked about. But I do want to jump to other headlines that were made, because a former Wimbledon champion, Maria Sharapova, came out today slamming the Wall Street Journal for their headline on the article that said the world number one who hits so hard she practices against men. So Maria Sharapova was not happy about this, shared this on her Instagram story and said, "What is this headline? What is this article? You can do better, WSJ." And the journalist who wrote this, his name is Joshua Robertson, a European sports reporter. But obviously there's definitely more people who have contributed on this article and all those things. But clearly the one thing we know is that a tennis great is not happy about this headline. So Kasey, are you shocked to see this? Do you think this was an overreaction by Maria Sharapova? What are you thinking about this tagline?
I think it's very on brand for Sharapova, for a number of reasons. Sharapova. It's because she's a big advocate for women's space in numerous sports. She's come out and kind of done press conferences across the board, but more importantly, to be like, she hits so hard she can compete against the men. This is a narrative we've tried to kind of like steer away from for a while, and for it to pop up in a tennis respect, I can understand her frustration a little bit further, because you have so many male tennis players that literally tell media how tough it would be to compete against a Sharapova, a Madison Keys, a Coco Gauff. And when they do their pairings, like, you see how they do the social media announcements now. Like, I know it was a big deal that Jack Draper, I think he got to pair off, or he was in support of Emily Navarro, a good friend of his, pairing off with like a top talent. And it's because they know that, like, you're powerful in certain moments and you're precise in certain moments. And tennis is more of a mental game than anything else. A powerful serve is great, but if you have no control over that power, then you're just a wild card that can't get past the rounds. So to be annoyed about something like that, I can totally understand, because there's just so much more to tennis than like, you got a powerful hit, you can match pace with the men. Like, not every guy is a powerful hitter,
right?
You know?
Yeah. No, that's so fair. And here's the thing too, like, it's true. Yes, like, women train with men for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? It makes them better. You can look at what we talk about on Respect Your Game all the time. Women's college basketball. The top programs in women's college basketball, even down to programs that aren't good, they have men training with them.
Yeah.
Right? So like, it's definitely a thing. But I think when you look at like the Wall Street Journal and how highly regarded it is, it's like, that's the best you could come up with. Like,
right.
If you're a journalist, like, where you been, dude? Like
compare my numbers. Like, show what that power number is in comparison to other powerful numbers. Don't make it a point of emphasis of men versus women. Make it a point of emphasis of top power hitters versus top power hitters.
Right. And like, where have they been? Because this has been the discussion for all the time. Like, if you ask any female athlete who competes at the highest level, she's probably cross-trained or trained in some respect with guys.
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing new. So I think, yeah, if that could have been a sub, heading of the article, awesome. I didn't even read the full article because I was like, well, we already know what you think it's about. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it could have been something a little more like, get the hook. I mean, now we're out here like telling Wall Street Journal what they should do.
I know.
I should start our own consulting firm.
Honestly.
But basically,
we're well on our way.
We're on our way. But basically, like, hey, here's like 3 things you need to know that this number 1 player in the world does that, helps our game. I just think it's not intelligent. It's like a very uncreative tagline, headline.
It's lazy.
Really. Yeah.
It's very lazy, because honestly, if you just drab up a little bit more work, and every approach to something in sports these days, I always look at it from a new fan perspective and a dialed in fan perspective, and how to merge the two. So like, sitting here saying like, she's so good, she can compete with guys. That's so antiquated. Like, show me other numbers. Not entertain. What's the word I'm looking for? Educate me.
Right.
Educate me while you highlight something that should be getting its flowers.
During Wimbledon, like during a time when people are logging on, watching tennis, right? Like, there aren't, I would say, like, it's not always on the TV. It's not the first thing you see when you turn on SportsCenter, right? So when there are these big time matches, these Grand Slams, like, let's talk about it in the right way. So yeah, I was definitely confused. Had Maria Sharapova on my wall growing up as a kid, and a big fat head. I actually didn't know who she was for a long time. I just kind of funny story. My sister had a big fat head of some football players, and I was like, hey, I want a fat head on my wall too. And my dad was like, all right, like, I'll get you Maria Sharapova. And
that's
for
hysterical.
some reason I like didn't connect the two. I just was like, oh, cool, like, tennis player on my wall. And then I was at the grocery store one day, like years later, I saw her on a magazine. I'm like, that woman looks familiar. I'm like, well, she was on my wall as a fat head.
You know what? They always have killer style though. So at least you maybe have like a stylistic
she's wearing
icon.
Casey's outfit today.
I really, again, leaned into the Wimbledon conversation.
It is so cool. Well, another really awesome story at Wimbledon right now is Ben Shelton. And after his 3rd round win, he called his elder sister Emma's employer to give her more PTO, as she'd be his lucky charm in Wimbledon. The employer was Morgan Stanley, and they gladly accepted. I think a lot of people would have been up in arms about this, but this is just so fun. This is why we love sports and getting to see cute things like this. But I feel like if you didn't give her PTO for that would be wrong.
I mean, what would you do as her employer? Like, her brother was killing it. Calls you and is like, hey, I need my lucky charm here. Like, what are you gonna do? But like many sports, Morgan Stanley is quite involved from the sponsorship side, so I'm sure there's a little bit of a soft spot to be like, hey, we totally get it. And she probably works hard.
It's got to be one of those things in your contract that's like unseen situations, or like PTO for things unknown, what's going to come up. And I feel like
so true.
That definitely counts. Like, that has to count. And it's only certain situations that this happens, so it's not like that happens every day.
Absolutely. And I think that call was very much needed and on brand, because right before we started the show, I saw that Ben Shelton's actually getting the tap to make it to the quarterfinals. So he is going to be in high representation for the Americans, but he's been a fun guy to watch over the past couple of years. Just a ball of energy. Went to UF, followed a number of his dad's footsteps. So like, he's so ingrained with his family. You can tell his family is his heartbeat for the success that he is pressing upon, for sure. And then of course, if you're not paying attention to his numbers, his stats, his climb in tennis, then you got to be paying attention to how him and Trinity Rodman are like the it couple of tennis right now. If anyone saw the Wimbledon movie with Kirsten Dunst, like, just reinsert Ben Shelton and Trinity Rodman. It's so cute.
Hey, it's awesome. There's so many different ways that you can talk about sports and all the fun storylines
Seriously.
through it. And I love the family support too, because it is an individual sport, right? Unless you're playing doubles. And so to be able to have that team, that family come around you, it's important. So get that PTO if you're a tennis player and you're a family member, because you got to be there to cheer them on. But that wraps up our Wimbledon women's discussion, and it will be, the final will be this Saturday. So you need to stay tuned for that, in the quarterfinals earlier this week. But when we come back, we'll get you our Girl on Fire of the Week, some people that you need to be cheering for, and we'll get you their highlights very soon. Hey, welcome back to Respect Her Game. It's time for my favorite segment, Girl on Fire. Casey would probably say it's her favorite segment too. I don't know, Casey.
I know. No, it is our favorite segment. We just never get a chance to get to it because there's always so many sports we talk
But
here.
today, here we are. So basically, Girl on Fire, we're giving you a girl that is killing it right now this week in sports, someone that you need to be cheering for, and show you their highlights. So I'll start it right off the top. Former teammate Charlotte North. Let's go, Charlotte North. Doing Charlotte North things. ESPN top 10 goal during the WLL All-Star game in the fourth quarter this past weekend. It was on at the bar that I was at on July 4th. It was dead set straight front. This was a through the legs, no look goal on the crease. Absolutely ridiculous. And people who don't know lacrosse very well, this is uncommon, unordinary, not something you see every day. Amazing goal from Charlotte North. Literally
Holy
didn't even
crap.
look before shooting this. And this also takes incredible stick handles to be able to hold the ball that low to the ground with your stick. Incredible shot by Charlotte North. Love this. Casey, you think you could do that?
Absolutely not. But would I try it? Absolutely. Is that almost equivalent, like, oh no, I mean, we would call that a self nutmeg. But no, it's sick too, because you mentioned the stick handling. Again, from a hockey perspective, like the right angle on everything is the degree of separation between the ball ricocheting off of your leg or ricocheting off of another person's leg, or not having the trajectory that it needs to go, and you just need it to. Yeah, you're already committing to the flair
you're
of
too
it.
far in. No,
too
totally.
far in. So like that just tells you just how skilled but how precise she has the capability of being. So that's sick. I would definitely try it, but no.
We'll see. I'll get Casey on the lax field. But no, it was incredible, not only because of how sick the goal was, right?
Yeah.
That's not something that you normally see in a women's lacrosse game. But this was also a huge game for women's lacrosse as a whole. WLL, they're trying to get this league off the ground. It's the All-Star game. It's the top women from college and in the pros now.
Wow.
And to have that moment just to rise the game to the occasion, like you got a highlight on ESPN, top 10, like it became a newsworthy story. So good job, Charlotte, for putting women's lacrosse back on the stage. And shout out to all the Boston College women's lacrosse players, former teammates of mine that got to play in that game. It was so fun to watch them on July 4th. But Casey, throwing it to you. Who is your girl
you know
on
so
fire?
many cool people, AB. Okay, I'm following up with Amanda Anisimova for a number of reasons. First of all, our lone standing American representing.
We don't have a red, white, and blue on, but
Exactly.
sorry.
I know we went so off key here, pink and lilac, but kudos to her for a number of reasons. For one, obviously being the low-standing American when it comes to representing on the tennis court, but it's more so the fact that in 2023, she took a break from tennis to protect her mental health, and as a result, her ranking fell outside of the top 400. We know how devastating these ranking drops are for tennis players. Today, she has a live ranking of number 8 and is on to her third slam qualification. So a lot of flowers and kudos to Amanda, but just kind of overemphasizing the mental health break that she took a chance on. And I say take a chance on because I know one other player that I love, Sydney Leroux. She actually decided to take a mental health break heading into this season. And as a leader over in LA, like that's a tough decision to separate yourself and be like, people are relying on me, but I need to do something for me. And while tennis seems so individual, like, yeah, her team is still going to be relying on her. The personal coaches, the privates that she has to work on, the system that they already had planned out for a year, 2 years in advance, because that's the thing. Tennis, you're not looking at the next week, the next month. You're always looking at everything in a year's conversation. So she took a chance on herself to say, I need to do something for me. And the mental toll that it takes on tennis players whenever you have a rank dropping, that's a whole nother thing that you have to internally really combat and come out stronger. So it's really great to see that not only is she representing the U.S., which is just like such a notoriety, and itself, but able to come back and say, like, it was worth it. Because I think we're so quick to be like, I tried this thing. It wasn't worth it. I should have done something different. I should have fought through it. I should have been stronger. It was strong for her to listen to herself. It was strong for her to come back and say, whatever happens, happens. And it's an even better reflection of strength to see that she's standing where she is today.
That's really awesome. It's also brave too. And I like what you said about the other people that are involved, because people look at a tennis player and they don't see the whole team, right?
It's like an F1 driver. People don't realize he has a personal trainer. He has a nutritionist. He has, his driving coach. He has his strategist. You're always working in a team of almost 10 members when you're in an individual sport.
Yeah, and those people are all invested fully in that, right?
Yes.
And so it's hard. Like you not only feel like, oh, I'm letting myself down, but I'm also probably letting other people down who have taken all their time and their focus is me, right?
Yeah.
But like when you look at, okay, what do I need to value and prioritize right now? Obviously, the mental health takes it on that one, but it's really cool to see her just be able to reflect on it in such a positive way. And hopefully, it'll allow other athletes to be able to say the same thing and hopefully get the same results.
Yeah, and I think it's an even cooler moment to kind of come back from, too, because you're talking about Anisimova representing lone American, but everyone has had a lot of, let's just say, frustrations and tough paths throughout this Wimbledon but throughout the Wimbledon tournament because of conditions and turnaround times and just all of these variables that are playing a massive role in tennis over the stretch of this season. I mean, we've read about a number of like court conditions not being up to par and frustrations for these athletes. So I think too, for her to kind of come and make this bounce back during a typically very frustrating year across the board for a number of tournaments and a number of athletes, like, she needed it, and she's going to be a great representation of what it means to be brave and to bet on yourself.
It also will give her a lot more street cred, right? If you're winning in spite of all those things.
So true.
You're the lone American in this situation. Like you said, people are, causing some commotion about the court conditions and, playing on grass. It's different. Not every tennis player trains on grass or grew up training on grass, and especially Americans. And so I think that will be a really cool, feather in her cap if she is able to get it done and win this thing. We'll see. But, I think even though she is the lone American, it is kind of nice to have like one person that everyone can rally around.
Oh, yeah.
Now the country's not split. We got our one girl, and we all better be rallying
and
around
we're all
her.
backing up Anisimova. As long as I continue to say her name correctly. No, I'm just kidding.
So on the topic of tennis, before we go here, are you better at tennis, do you think, or would you like pickleball?
Oh, tennis. I love the pace of tennis so much more. Like, there's no better feeling than that crisp sound when the ball hits your racket perfectly.
It sounded like the Morgan Wallen song. There's like the feeling when the bass hits the hook.
Yes, exactly that. Like, that is that feeling. Like, it's funny because I did one-on-ones for tennis last summer, because for me, now that I'm getting older, like, my workout regimen is just playing. I want to play something, whether it's golf, tennis, or, as you guys know, I'm skating and playing hockey right now. But like last year in Apopka, it was back to tennis for me. I played on my high school team, but I was just more of like a seed bump. Like, I was there to help, but not help.
And it looked good.
And I had the outfits for it. But once you started getting in a flow and you got like the perfect, forehand, and you curtailed it to like you, and then like, your backhand response, and not being scared of your backhand, but it's that sound. Like, tennis for me.
Well, if we can't play, then we'll just have to go to Wimbledon next year.
It's so fun watching these
out.
things. I went to the Miami Open last year, and like, there's videos. My friends were like, Kasey, are you going to speak to us? And I was like, I will not. I'm paying attention right now. I got to see Dmitry Georgiev, who has like one of the most powerful backhands, and I was just kind of in a trance. I think it was the semifinals too. But if you don't play, I highly recommend at least going. And now they have all of these pop-ups because we're in the era of like Stella representing and Rolex and all these things. So it's an amazing experience overall.
Hey, well, you're way more dialed in tennis than I thought you'd be. That was incredibly impressive.
Rolodex of surprise.
I know.
Over here.
I gotta come to a match with you, but I love talking tennis. We haven't talked tennis on here actually probably
at all.
Ever.
I don't think.
So this is the first time. Hey, there's always a first time for everything. Love the show today. Got some WNBA, got some hoops, and got some tennis in. Thanks so much for tuning in to Respect Your Game. AB and Kasey out. We will see you next week.